Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. As always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Recher podcast. Hope everybody is doing well on this Tuesday. I'm still like, I'm still a little behind, I think, from my crazy ass weekend, but I'm here with you. Great night last night, hanging out with the UT crew over at the Urso house. Pig roast, food, drinks, just a lot of fun, and just doesn't get better than our Tampa Spartans. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. And if you want to get on board, we're going to see, and you're starting to see it with some of the interviews, some of the things that we're changing. My guy, James Dolan's been working on a lot. Our background's going to be significantly different here in the next week or so. So just wait. We got a lot of things coming down the pike. Businesses that have reached out, that want to partner up, that want to be a part of the Recher podcast. Everything is going to be rolling here in the next couple of weeks. Got some new business opportunities coming my way. It's funny how it rains, it pours. You think, man, there's a lot of bad things going on or nothing's going your way. And then it's just like everything seems to happen at once. It's pretty crazy. But we will obviously start off with my guy, Honest Hammer, and Honest Hammer Construction. My guy, Russ, he'll be the first guy that'll be a part of the partnership program here on the Recher podcast. Make sure you shout him out whenever you can, especially when he's on with the guys on WDAE as well. Hammer, my guy. Let me know, where are you watching the Recher podcast from today? I would love to see where the reach is at. Where are we going? Where are you watching the program from? We had all the way up in Cooperstown, New York yesterday on the program. My guy, Vince Scagno, and the Hit Factory guys. After they watched the show yesterday, they had a huge win in the Cooperstown Dreams Park tournament. Just really, really cool. And of course, restarting my coaching career this weekend with my friends over at Hit Factory. Cannot wait for that. A lot of great things yesterday on the program. Our interview with Joe Urso, our interview with Ian Beckles, and also with Jordan Listro, the captain of our Tampa Bay Sun. We had some huge numbers yesterday. Yesterday was one of the biggest top 5 show in history yesterday on the program. A lot of it had to do with our friends, the Spartan families, but we got to keep this going. We got to keep this train rolling. As many people as we can get on the program and to view the program, the better it is for everybody. And we expect those numbers to get higher and higher once football season comes around. I was at Buccaneers mandatory minicamp today at One Buck Place at the Avon Hill Training Center. So we're going to get into my favorite thing that I saw today, including some of the other things that really stood out. I know Todd Bowles, as well as Baker Mayfield and Rashad White and Tyke Smith spoke today. So we get some of those videos. We'll play them for you here on the program as well. Matt Matera is going to join us from Pewter Report at 1 o'clock. At 1:30, Grant Jordan is going to hop on the program. Grant Jordan went to Jesuit. He was at UT last year. He was at Pasco-Hernando State College this year. This is a multi-time national champion. He joins us at 1:30 today. We'll, of course, talk some Rays. We'll talk some Florida Panthers. We'll talk some other big news around the National Football League. Again, I want to hear from you. Feel free to call into the program. This is the link. Go check it out in the chat. There you go. StreamYard.com/W3H5MJUTWC. Right there. And you can just click on that link in the chat. And then we'll go from there. Jay, when are the t-shirts coming? Love the show. Pump the Rays. They got that crazy W last night. Working on that now, Jeff. Hey, that's a good question, Jeff. Because what I want to do is I want to get t-shirts made. But I want to get t-shirts made where whether you're a fan of the podcast or you're not, you would wear the shirts. So it's got to have some kind of – listen, I'm not going to do a t-shirt company. I'm going to leave that to my friends at Ingrained Apparel and For the Bay and 1771 and Smack Apparel. Like, I'm not going to do an apparel company. But what I do want to do is I want to just get a couple of shirts that have the J Retro podcast, but I want a slogan on it that people from Tampa would wear, not like Tampa proud or something witty. So, I mean, I think that would be pretty cool if we had something. I'm going to open that up. Who would come out with the best like slogan for the J Retro podcast? But it's got to be about Tampa. It's got to be something where if you were from Tampa and never heard of the podcast, you would look and go, oh, Tampa proud or something like that. I would love that shirt, right? Something like that where draw even just the casuals in. What's up, Adam? Good to see you here on the program. Again, if you want to join in on the conversation, you can do it there. You can text in Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, everywhere. David Terry, my guy. Craig, get more Plain alumni in program. You got that right, pal. Lady Evil, how about that Rays game? I had 2 or 3 heart attacks. How about Ian Seymour coming in? What a great story, making his debut coming up and helping the team to a 10-8 victory. Dave Terry, I hope JBB is paying attention to the Stanley Cup because we need a 3rd and 4th line like the Panthers. It's funny, Dave, because everybody was saying that about the Tampa Bay Lightning when they had Yanni Gord and Blake Coleman and Barclay Goodrow. And Dolan, what up, Jay? The series all but over. Edmonton is so frustrated by the dirty play. They can't hang on. Yeah, I don't hate that. Bantry, need a t-shirt that says, if you don't wear pewter and red, you don't matter. Something like that. I don't know if that's exactly it, but something like that. I'm with you. We need a catchy slogan for the first ever J Retro podcast t-shirt. And I think we can really go off, but it's got to be generic to a point, but specific to a point. We can put the J Retro podcast logo like on the back of the neck, but something on the front's got to be something where anybody in Tampa would wear the shirt. Stash, what's up, Jay? Waking up hating the Panthers even more today. Yeah, I am not one of those people that is like Tampa or U.S. versus Canada. I don't really care. Like if you're playing my number one rival, which I think the Panthers is up there when it comes to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Yeah, I'm not rooting for them over Edmonton. I don't care. It's like my day doesn't really change all that much where if the Oilers win, who gives a crap? I don't really care. That don't mean shit to me. Pewter and red till I'm cold and dead. I can't just that's a good one, but I don't want it to be just a Bucs. I want it to be Tampa focused, not team focused. Because I want even like non-sports fans to be able to wear it, right? Because if you're that Pewter and red till I'm cold and dead, like I think of one of my best friends, he likes the Bucs, but he's a Dolphins fan. He's not going to wear that. So, but if you're Tampa, right? But it's a cool thing about Tampa, or even not about Tampa, just I don't know. We'll think about it. We'll keep it going. We need some more ideas. I got to get my like brother and sisters on this. All right, let's talk Buccaneers mandatory minicamp over there today at the Advent Health Training Center at One Buccaneer Place. And listen, it's just good to be back around the facility. Good to see the guys out there. And Chris Godwin, he was on the side, gray hoodie, had a gray headband on. But to be able to see Baker out there, to be able to see Tristan kind of doing some stuff off to the side, seeing Bucky Irving. And it's always, your eyes always go to the young cats. It always goes to the rookies. And you look at your first round pick, Emeka Egbuka out there. And to be able to see him out there with Tez Johnson, your late round pick, and to be able to see all of this stuff with these young guys really come to fruition. You hope that when they're out there, they don't look out of place. And after we went to, voluntary OTAs and rookie camp and to see them, they don't look out of place. They look like they're lockstep in with everybody, whether it's catching passes, whether it's returning kicks. Tez Johnson is a guy. He is going to be it's going to be weird that he's not in the mix, right? Perry, when you play in the Bay, you hear it from Jay, something like that. But just watching Tez Johnson, he's so fast. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's such a mismatch. And I just think back to the play where Kansas City beat Philly in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, where they had the player go in motion, stops halfway, goes back the other way. Kadarius Toney scores the touchdown. I think Tez is a problem. I don't see how he doesn't make this team. He seems to be loved by a lot of people, and that's speed. Right? You're not going to ask him to catch 10 balls a week. He's not going to be going over the middle, and you're not worried about him in that aspect. But if as almost a gadget player, a guy that can help you on special teams, I find it hard to believe that Tez doesn't make this roster in some form or fashion. Dave wants to know how CG looks walking. Doesn't look out of place He looked pretty normal, no noticeable limp or hitch in his giddy up. But we will ask Matt Matera because he was there. I cut out right before they kind of broke it all down and started the post-game or post-practice interviews with, again, Baker Mayfield, Rachaad White, Tyke Smith, and Coach Todd Bowles. So we'll know more from Matt Matera at 1 o'clock today. But I was there from, I'd say, 9:30 to 10:50. We started the practice in the indoor facility. It's funny because Greg Allman, our pal from Fox Sports, wrote something on Twitter like, oh, yeah, it looks like there could be some rain in the forecast, but it doesn't look like it's going to be that bad. And then when we got there, it was like Infinity War from the Avengers. I was like, holy smoke, here comes Thanos and the crew. So we went inside for like the first portion and the stuff that we could video. And then we went outside for some of the individual. We saw some of the 7-on-7 stuff. We did see a pick. The first interception from mandatory minicamp came from who? Did anybody see? Did anybody catch it on social media? Let's see if you guys can guess. The first interception at Buccaneers mandatory minicamp came from which defensive player? I was going to give you the position, but I'm not going to make it easy on you. Let's hear it, Bucs Nation. Who had it? Let's see if you were paying attention to the right people on Twitter, on social media, or let's see if it's a guess. Which player had the first interception for the Buccaneers in mandatory minicamp? Great to see Baker out there. Emeka Egbuka, listen, they're putting him in a lot of different spots. And obviously with CG not out there, you're going to see a ton of Mike and Jalen McMillan, and you're going to see Emeka involved. Sterling Shepard is another guy too, right? Sterling Shepard is a guy that has a great rapport with Baker Mayfield. There's a reason why they got him off the couch last year, and he's coming back again to camp this year. Jalen McMillan is a guy that I look at and go, where are you at? Are you going to answer the bell? Because you're going to be challenged here. And when I watch him, I see it again. I saw it last year too. He dropped the pass. And it was a Kyle Trask thrown ball, and it was a deep ball, and he was a little bit underthrown, so he had to come back to it, but he was wide open, and Jalen McMillan dropped it. And this was a guy coming out of Oregon where people lauded his ability to be able to run different routes and to be able to make some tough catches, but he had good hands. But we saw it in training camp last year where he had some drops, and we see it again this year, right? One of the first throws gone his way today at mandatory minicamp. Is it a problem? I don't think so, but we speak about this a lot when it comes to the margins. When it comes to the fine margins, and it's between you and another guy, sometimes it comes down to a drop. Sometimes it comes down to a blocking assignment. So Emeka Egbuka, I didn't see any drops from him today, but you saw a big one from Jalen McMillan on that deep pass from Kyle Trask. Something to certainly keep an eye on. Jeff, you're a maniac. You come to Tampa to just relax. Me in Tampa listen to Jay Recher. I like that, you son of a gun. You're funny. David Velasquez. So I asked, who was the first Buccaneer to come away with an interception at mandatory minicamp? The first guest from Dave, Antoine Winfield Jr. That is incorrect. Keep guessing, Bucs Nation. Keep guessing. Who was the first Buccaneer to come away with an interception at mandatory minicamp today? Another great thing to see was, what was I just talking? Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving was wild. It was just so crazy how good that he just looks fast. He's so elusive. He gets to the line of scrimmage and he bounces side to side. The way he makes his cuts, he's not a guy that waits to get to the line of scrimmage. You see this a lot, and we saw years ago with like Charles Sims and some of these guys where they get to the line. Ronald Jones, they get to the line and they're just like they're dancing around. They're trying to find the hole. They're trying to be the next coming of Le'Veon Bell. But they can't do that. You got to hit the hole, and then when you get to that second level, then you can juke, and then you can be shifty. And God, I mean, you just see the discernible difference between Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. And listen, I like Rachaad White. I'm not one of those people that think he should be traded. I'm not one of those people that look at him and say, man, I wish they had another guy. I like Rachaad White. With that being said, you can tell there's a difference between him and Bucky Irving. It just is. It's just so. I mean, I hope he stays, and I know he answered the question, and I want to see if we can have, excuse me, the answer from him on the. All right, so yeah, the answer from him when it comes to why he made that Facebook post or that post about one last ride, and he said it was just something that it was from a song, country song, or whatever. I don't know, buddy. I don't know about that, pal. I don't know. But let's get to some of the people that spoke here earlier today. And let's start with Baker Mayfield. This is from our pal, Greg Allman, talking about his third season here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Craig, you're there. Give me a second. I'm going to play this thing with Baker, and I'll get right to you, pal. Here is Baker Mayfield from earlier today.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it since the beginning. This feels like home. It has, and it continues to feel better and better. Just like I said many times, they allow me to be myself, the best version of that. And so that's the best part. And so understanding that I'm around a lot of the same personnel, allowed to able to get a lot more out of the guys. And so obviously I'm happy to be here, happy to have a home, but we have a lot of unfinished business and things that we need to do to take the next step. And not just it's not just about the division title; it's about making runs to the Super Bowl and a deeper playoff run. And that's the attention to detail, the focus and strain that it's going to take for us to take it to the next level. And I think we have the pieces to do it.
I love that when it comes to Baker, right? Knowing that there's unfinished business, knowing that there is there's steps that need to be taken. And you guys know about me. I'm a big expectations guy. I am one of those people that I do believe in silver linings. I do believe in moral victories, depending on what team you're talking about. If you're a team that nobody thought was going to make the playoffs, you make the playoffs, you win a playoff round, and you get bounced out in the second round. Is there a moral victory? Is there a silver lining? Yes, because your expectations were not of a championship team. If you are a playoff team and you're a perennial contender, are there silver linings? Are there moral victories? I think it's very hard to find them in that situation. Like if you're the Lightning, I don't know even if the Panthers win the cup, is that a silver lining? Not really, because your goal is to win the Stanley Cup. That's it. Let's go to Craig in Vegas. My man, great to have you on the program, brother. Thanks so much for calling in. How are you?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm good. What do you got for me?
Hey, first on Baker, and then I'll talk about the Rays for a sec. Are the Bucs better off now locking up Baker to a long-term deal for cap reasons? And listen, if they do make a deep run, the price tag goes up even more next year too. And obviously, I'm sure it would make him feel a little better than because you got to get Gatorade on in contract soon. He's probably one of the top 10 tackles out there right now too. You want to keep that O-line intact too. So would it not be good for PR and just for Baker himself and the cap to get him done before camp?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I think it's still as much as and I don't know if you guys know this. I like Baker. I do. But I've gone on record saying I don't know if he is good enough to lead them to a Super Bowl, right? And he's been as good as advertised. But Craig, if he takes a step back this year, then what, right? Like if he gets into the habit of, I'm not saying he's going to fall off the cliff, but like let's say he regresses to where he's the 16th best quarterback in the league, right? Where even in his best years in Cleveland, there was still a little bit of a wait and see approach. I think because of who Baker is, I think Jason Light just may continue to just go in that habit of like, hey, we'll give you a 3-year deal, right? Like we'll give you a 3-year deal. I don't know if we'll ever get to a point where he's ever going to be more than that, where you have to necessarily worry, because even if, what would he have to do to be a top 5 paid quarterback this year? Like he'd have to maybe win MVP, right? Now I don't know if that's going to happen, right? If he leads him to a Super Bowl, is it going to be just because of him? It'll probably be more because of, and I'm thinking high end scenarios of what you're saying of, hey, you want to do this in case something happens where he gets himself, where he's priced to the Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts. I don't know if there's really anything that he can do, Craig, to be like the highest he can go, even if they win the Super Bowl. I mean, I saw a thing today that Jalen Hurts is Chris Sims had as the 10th ranked quarterback in the league. He just led the team to a freaking Super Bowl. So I think I'm with you. I understand where you're coming from. I don't know if it's that much of a priority because I think at the best he's going to be 6th or 7th in the league. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And with the cap seemingly always going up, I don't think Jason Light will ever look at this and go, I got a problem giving him a little bit more. I mean, they're not the Rays. They're not the Rays and the Lightning where it's sometimes they're kind of managing, how much they're willing to give these guys. We've seen from Jason Light, he's willing to kind of pay for some of the experience. Stay with me, Craig. I want to answer these two questions real quick. Jacob Parrish, who got the first interception today? Incorrect. Bantry, Jamel Dean, also incorrect. What else you got for me, Craig?
And regarding the Rays, obviously there is a resurgence in this team, right? The offense is starting to go. The pitching has been great. I mean, you had the hiccup Saturday with Taj and Mason, unfortunately, too. But you listen, even last night, despite all the things that were going on with that game, they still got the W, too. If they continue along this path, right, of being, potentially 2-3 games out, they do have a surplus of starting pitching right now. Joe Boyle, again, was minor league player of the year. You do have Kim coming up, so you're going to have to make a roster move this coming weekend, potentially for next week, too. Do the Rays change and become a buyer and not a seller based on that? But it's not so much that they have to sell, but they do have extra pieces, and they're very good at dealing starting pitchers at the right time too. Look at Springs is not doing that well with the Athletics. Obviously Seymour, you could see the potential there last night too, even in the 2 innings, but he wasn't nervous in Fenway too. I just think with the American League that is down this year, there's, other than the Tigers, there's no other dominant team. There's no other dominant team out there. I just think with their pitching, they could really make a run deep in the playoffs this year if they got in.
Yeah, and I don't know if the Rays will ever be full-blown buyers, right?
No, not a full-blown buyer, but they could pick up that one key piece that they may need.
And I think, just in context, like I think that they could get, and you wonder too, and I talked to Eric Neander about this, and he never really admitted it, but the whole Joe Ryan for Nelly Cruz thing at the deadline was so, hey, we're gonna do it. Everybody always wants us to buy a bat, and they did it. And Joe Ryan's one of my favorite pitchers to watch in baseball. Like, the dude is filthy. But I even then, like, I loved the deal. Like, Nelly Cruz was a great big time power bat. He was a guy that was a leader for a lot of the Latin players in the clubhouse. Like, I just thought it made a lot of sense to go out and get a guy like that, and it didn't work for him. Do they have buyer beware because of something like that? I think they do a little bit, because you have to. When you're the Rays, you can't just forget about the moves that you make. The Yankees and the Red Sox and the Dodgers, if they make a bad trade, if they have a bad signing, they could just be like, well, it didn't work. I'm just going to call this guy up. I'm going to trade for this guy. I'm going to sign for this guy, right? Look how the Yankees pivoted for Juan Soto. So it's the same thing for them. Like, they don't really have to have a great long-term memory, because they can just put it behind them and use their finances to be able to make up for it. I never loved trading starting pitching. Zach said this to me in the beginning of the season a couple of years ago, and then 3/5 of the rotation was gone in 12 days, right? It was just crazy how that happens. Now, you have a great point where the Rays know when to trade that pitching. But my answer to that is, and I don't know this for sure without when they've been in contention, I don't know if they've ever traded a pitcher away in season, because we know with Springs, it was an off-season deal, right? So if they'll trade from that guy, it's one thing when they're out of it and they trade a starting pitcher and they don't really care, and it's just like, it's not really a big factor. But I think they know who they have right now, and it's inevitable that somebody's going to tweak something, right? I'm not saying it's going to be a long-term thing, and of course, knocking on wood, we don't want anything like that to happen. But like Littell, right? That's a guy you look at and you go, well, could somebody else use those innings elsewhere? Well, you need innings, right? You need guys that can munch innings. It's a long summer, and they're going to be on the road a ton. And when you're on the road a ton, your starters don't usually go as long. Your bullpen's usually not as effective. It's like a bench in basketball. It's just the way it goes. So to get rid of certain guys, like I'd love to see Boyle up, but if you're telling me that Boyle's a guy that they're just going to he's going to do his thing down there, and then you're going to call him up almost as a mid-season acquisition with Shane McClanahan, dude, that's a game changer, because you don't have to bring him up to start, right? And you have some of these guys, you're going to go with your guys. You're going to go with Taj. You're going to go with Boz, if Littell's up here. But now you get to a point, and we see this in the postseason where it's a 2 or 3 game series. How many starters do you really need? And all those guys become long relief guys. So if you have Boyle coming out of the pen and Shane, who knows what his length is going to be when it comes to how many innings he's going to pitch. I think it's a good problem to have, but I think you bring up a good point.
I see your point too. I could see Boyle replacing maybe Mason or someone else in the bullpen too, because I mean, say, hey, listen, all you have to do is cover 1 or 2 innings. So you don't have to hold back, because what his strikeouts per 9 are, what, 9 or 10 right now down in Durham. And he does have some major league experience where you shorten out the outing too. I am off to see them in KC in a few weeks. So I'm going to go see another Playing High alumni down there in Cags, who went 4 for 4 on Sunday too. So seeing all the Playing High guys in the league right now is kind of fun for me. So, but keep up the great work, man. And I love having you on midday. I know my dad watches too from the house too.
Nice. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's funny because I was at Joe Urso's house last night with his son, Preston, who was on the show last week. And he goes, Coach Jay, I'm leaving at 5 a.m. tomorrow. I'm like, to where? He's like, Kansas City. I'm like, why are you going to Kansas City? He's like, got to go for Jack's home debut. I'm like, yo, you really are his best friend. He's like, I'm there for 2 days. We got a suite, and then I'm coming back. And I'm like, bro, you got to go to work. Like, you got to work one of these freaking days. But I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. I always appreciate the support. Tell your dad I said the same. We'll talk soon.
All right, man. Take care, Jay. Bye.
Thanks, buddy. Good stuff, as always, from our pal Craig in Vegas. That's dedication. Who had the first pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in mandatory minicamp? Was it Shiloh Sanders? No. Was it Zion McCollum? No. Was it Bryce Hall? Ding, ding, ding. Circle gets the square. Great job, Adam Cartwright. Bryce Hall. That's another guy that not a lot of people are talking about when it comes to this Buccaneers team. Losing him so early last year, he wasn't a factor. And I think when you look at the cornerback situation, okay, let's not forget that aspect of what happened last season. You lose him so early. He was a guy coming across from the Jets, veteran. He knows what it entails to be a player in the National Football League, right? And for him, it just didn't, you forgot about it. So when Zion got banged up, when a guy like Jamel Dean got banged up, it was really paper thin. And that's tough, man. It is really tough to have a situation like that. And you put some of the blame on the guys that are injured, and you forgot about Bryce Hall. But now he's here. So now you add him to the entire, I don't want to say mess, but to the entire equation, where you have Zion, where you have Jamel Dean, you have Bryce Hall, and then you look at Jacob Parrish, who had a really good breakup, and Benjamin Morrison. Now you're looking at it like, I got 5 guys at the corner position. Okay. Then you start looking at Tyke Smith and Antoine Winfield Jr. and Chris Izzy and Shiloh Sanders. Now you got 9 pretty good guys in the secondary, right? That makes you feel a lot better about that position, where last year it was, you're missing this guy and you're missing this guy. And then you got guys that are special teamers playing predominant roles in the secondary. It's just not good. It's not good at all. What was my favorite part of camp today? This right here. This video right here made me happy. I watched it and I thought to myself, what a terrifying sight for NFL offenses around the league. Check it out. I mean, look at those dudes. There's not really much audio to go with it, but if you can see, you have Vita Vea, collage. Look at Vita messing with me. Thanks, Vita. I'm going to let the video run twice so you can see it. But look, Vita Vea, Kalijah Cansey, Yaya Diaby, and Hassan Reddick. And you can hear us like chuckling because Vita saw us. And that's what everybody wanted to see. Everybody wanted to see Hassan Reddick, wanted to see him out there with the team. And he was talking to everybody. That makes me chuckle. But Vita, he knew what the good shot was. But Vita, Yaya, Kalijah, and Hassan Reddick. And then later on, Logan Hall and Desmond Watson went over there. But one thing that really stood out to me today was Hassan Reddick chatting with everyone. He was talking to every single person that was around, laughing, yucking it up. This is not, he didn't scream a guy that was like, I'm only here for me. I only care for myself. Like, at the end of the day, these guys are, they're professional athletes. They're focused on making their money, right? And doing big things. Like, I don't know. I thought he looked great to me. He looked ready to roll. Here is what head coach Todd Bowles had to say, courtesy of our friends over at Pewter Report about Hassan Reddick.
He came in shape. He flew around everything we thought he would be flying around, so happy with him. T-shirt and shorts. Got a t-shirt and shorts.
George Edwards was
That's funny, right? When Jenna asks Todd Bowles, like, oh, we got a sack too. Like every single year we're at training camp, we're at OT, whatever, and somebody brings up a sack in training camp, Todd Bowles or whoever's out there is like, not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. It's just not the same. It would have been a sack. Like nobody wants to hear that. None of the players, none of the coaches, nobody. Nobody wants to talk about that at all because it's not real. It's not real life. Like that doesn't make sense. Like it's a different ball game altogether. You don't know what the coverage is. You don't know what the quarterback would have done in a situation like that. It's just completely different. So yeah, not really that much of a big deal at all. So watching these guys, and here's another video. I wanted to play something from Tyke Smith because he's another guy I'm looking at. Do we have the Rashad White thing on here? No. All right. So this is from our guy, Greg Allman. When it comes to Tyke Smith, we're talking about guys in the secondary and who is going to be a factor. And Tyke is one of them. Where is he going to nickel, corner? I mean, not corner, nickel, safety, because investing that draft pick that they had in him last year, they had a lot of love for this kid out of Georgia. He's got a lot of talent. But is he going to make the most of it? Let's see what he had to say today.
This offseason, I spent time looking back at game film and that. I think I played good halfway through the season, had some bad games. So this year, just looking to build on that and then be consistent. Try to finish this year healthy. That'd be the biggest thing.
That's a huge part of this whole thing. And I had this conversation with our pal Ira Kaufman from Joe Bucs fan of the Buccaneers, for the most part, the last couple of years have been pretty healthy when it comes to their key players. And I know in the middle of last season, they had to deal with the situation with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And, you did have some injuries to Jamel Dean and Zion McCollum. I get that. But when you look at it, like Baker was healthy, Bucky comes in, he was healthy. So was Rashad. Your tight ends were pretty good. Your offensive linemen were pretty good. Levante, right? I mean, you look at some of those guys, Antoine Winfield Jr. last year, for the most part, like you see some of these teams and they're just littered with injuries. And you're like, how the hell do you combat that? For the Bucs, for the most part, doing pretty damn well. And it's just you hope, and it plays a part. But you just, knock on wood, fingers crossed that these guys can stay as healthy as humanly possible to give this team every single chance to be successful. Because I look at this Bucs team and I look at everything that's going on, and I'm not as impressed with a lot of these other teams. I mean, Philadelphia is obviously good. I know people like the Rams. People are high on the Lions, even though they lost their coordinators. But you look at the Bucs, man, and you look at their roster and you look at their record. Man, I think that this team has a real chance of really blasting people. I think Canty taking that game to the next level. Some of these guys in their second and their third year, a lot of discussion about Yaya Diaby and thinking he's an elite pass rusher. Let's say a lot of these things happen. Let's say, and I'm looking at the defensive side of the ball. Let's say you have these young guys and they come away with some of the picks that you're expecting them to have. A couple of ball hawks. We saw today Jacob Harris, man. He's just so quick out of these wide receiver breaks, jumping on he's a really good player. Antoine Winfield Jr. having a little bit more of an impact when it comes to the turnovers, with him. And then now you add the pass rush. You add Hassan Reddick. You add Yaya Diaby really blossoming opposite of a guy that's a legit pass rusher in this league. You're talking about a defense that's middle of the road. That imagine if this Buccaneers defense is able to carry the water in some of these games. And then you don't have to rely on Bucky Irving and Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield and a fantastic offensive line. This team could be really scary. Ian said it yesterday. If you missed the talk, it's up on our page, up on the channel here on YouTube. Ian said for the first time maybe ever with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, their offensive line is their strength, their identity. There's teams that take the entire season. Hell, I remember asking Dave Canales this years in week 18. He was still trying to establish an identity. Now you look at this team, and if you can get back to running the football with Bucky, running the football with Rashad, getting Sean Tucker in there, play action for Baker, getting everybody involved, because Baker is a guy, when everything is going well, he's spreading the football around. He's like a really good point guard in the NBA. He knows when to take it himself, right? Got to make sure you get down, Baker. But he's a guy that when he spreads the football around, that's when he's at his best, not when he's locking into one guy. Get Mike his share, get Chris his share, Jalen and Mecca. Utilize that stellar offensive line. And they were carrying the water last year. Now you get a situation this season, if you can get all of these resources that you put into the defensive side of the ball operating at a high level, why can't the Bucs be an 11 or 12 win team? Who does? I mean, that's the thing. What do you need to see from this defense to give you optimism that this team's going to be an 11 win team? And even if not everything works out, what if it's just a couple of things? Let's say you don't see a bunch of sacks from a guy like Yaya Diaby. Let's say he only has 6 or 7. But Hassan Reddick has 12. And Antoine Winfield Jr. is back in the conversation when it comes to Defensive Player of the Year, right? Like, those are the type of things. How many of those variables have to happen for this team to really take that next step? You got to watch out, man. You got to watch out for this Buccaneers team. And they like it. They like it flying under the radar. Fly right under the radar. Don't let anybody else tell you, oh, yeah, you're so great and all these different things. Huge fan of what's going on with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. And again, we'll talk more Bucs with Matt Matera at 1 o'clock. How about our Tampa Bay Rays? I mean, you go up to Boston and it got hairy. It did. You're blowing the lead in the 9th inning, Pete Fairbanks, but they stay with it. There's this mental fortitude that this team has created over the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 weeks that wasn't in there in the beginning of the season. Now, if they get punched in the mouth, they're not, second round knockout. And you look at what happened last night. You're up 3-0 in the 5th. Red Sox answer with 1, and then 2. They're tied. What do the Rays do after they tie the game in the 6th? Boom. Answer back with 3 themselves. They score 1 in the 9th. Red Sox come back with 2. The Rays score 1 in the 10th. Red Sox score 1. And then the Rays score 2. You get Seymour to come in, makes his debut, gets his win. The kid from Massachusetts, like, you can't script this any better for this team. 12 hits last night for the Rays. You're spreading it around. Pretty crazy that the only guy in the starting lineup that didn't have, all right, Jansen, but Jansen had 2 runs scored, Caminero, and he did have an RBI 0 for 5 last night. I love that. And how good has Jonathan Aranda been? And Jake Mangum, 4 for 6 with a couple of RBIs. Now, when I watch Jake Mangum play, and I think back to the discussion we had a couple of weeks ago, in no form or fashion did I ever say that Jake Mangum shouldn't have been on this team in place of a guy like Chandler Simpson. Sorry. So all these people out there like, oh, I can't believe, now everybody's going to be happy about Jake Mangum. Like, I don't know if many people out there were saying keep Chandler Simpson in spite of this kid. They saw what he's been able to do as well. They're looking at a guy, and I know his defense is stellar, a guy like Meisner who's struggling to swing the bat, and also a guy like, Christopher Morel. And Morel's going to be, I don't know if Morel's ever going to be a guy that's super consistent. He's very streaky. He's going to pop a couple of, and then he's going to go 1 for 27. Do you need that? Depends on what you're looking for. But I tell you what, when you look at a guy like Chandler Simpson and you know what his offense is going to be and just his contribution to the game when it comes to the speed and putting the onus on, you have to keep an eye on him. That's something that doesn't ever really go away. But you look at the Yankees and where they're at in the AL East, and then you look at what the Tampa Bay Rays are at in the AL East. Does anybody out there think that the Rays are going to catch the Yankees in the division. They're only 4 games back. It would have been wild to say this just a couple of weeks ago. But the Yankees have lost, obviously they lost their last 2 against the Red Sox. They're 5-5 in their last 10. The Rays are 7-3 in their last 10. Yankees are 39-25. The Rays are 36-30. The Rays, who were just terrible at home, now 23-20 at home. Good for them to be able to bounce back. And, right now they're tied with the Blue Jays with the second best record in the division. Red Sox still 4 games under 500 after the loss last night. So, do you think that a team like the Tampa Bay Rays and how they've been able to find themselves, and knowing that Chandler Simpson's waiting in the wings, Boyle's waiting in the wings, Hassan Kim will be here soon, Shane McClanahan should be back at some point over the summer, do you think the Rays will catch the Yankees atop the AL East? Let me know. I want to hear from you guys here on the program, and I'll put this out again. There it is right there. Here's the link right there. Just click on it in the chat. You can join via the phone, via the laptop. David Terry tells us Simpson will be big in the playoffs. He will make the postseason roster. No doubt about it in my mind. He's going to have to be that guy that you put in there. You call him off the bench. And if you need a run, it's 3-2 in the 9th. Lead off walk to Yandy Diaz. Here comes Chandler Simpson. It's going to happen. I agree with you, DT. Do you think the Rays will catch the Yankees for first place in the division? It's been a while since I looked as far as, and you know me, I don't like it when people just look at the standings when they're talking about this team. But, man, just looking at it, 4 games is not out of reach. And looking at when they play them again, here, let me look that up. Rays schedule. Not this month. So again, we talked about it yesterday. Tough 6-game road trip, 2 more against the Red Sox, a day off on Thursday before 3 games against the Mets up there in Queens, and then home to a 4-game series against the Orioles and 3 games against the Tigers, and then they visit Jack Caglione and Kansas City on the 24th in July. Let me see anything before. All right, the next time they play the Yankees, it'll be late July in the Bronx, and it's a 4-game series, July 28th to the 31st, 3 night games at 7:05 in the Boogie Down, and then a Thursday go-home departure day at 1:05. So it'll be – I'll ask you that question. By the time July 28th comes around, do you think the Rays will be in first place in the division? I think there's a good chance. It depends on what happens with the Yankees as well. You look at what they did in the Boston series, and the pitching struggled a little bit. But for the most part this year, Max Fried and Carlos Rodon have done the job. How are they going to deal with any further injuries? I know you could say that a lot about any team in Major League Baseball. And you finally got Jazz Chisholm after missing him for a couple of weeks. What happens with Giancarlo Stanton? Can get him back into the fold? DJ LeMahieu's come back and swung the bat well, and we know how good Aaron Judge and Paul Goldschmidt have been this year. Optimistically, I think a lot of Rays fans out there will look at it and say, yeah, of course, we'd be able to take care of the division, and we'll be in first place by the time the Rays go to the Bronx July 28th. But I wonder. I can't wait to see what Hassan Kim brings to the table. Because for all the talk of what he can do, and we didn't obviously get a chance to see him playing on the West Coast, but defensively playing a number of positions, what he can do to swing the bat as well. The versatility with this team has always been a positive point and something that they hang their hat on. But what's the corresponding roster move? Is it the end of the line for Taylor Walls with the Rays? It could be. I don't see them getting rid of Jose Caballero. The way he can run the bases, the way he can now play infield and outfield. I mean, Taylor's such a good defender at short. That's a tough decision to make. It really is. I just don't know what you do in that spot. And I know a lot of people on the outside are like, oh, it should be an easy call. Just get rid of him. Or is Christopher Morel that guy? Because the Rays don't want to give up on Christopher Morel until they exhaust every single avenue to try to get him to succeed for this team, because he was a guy that was a part of that deal to get rid of Isaac Paredes. Dave Terry, you bring up a good point. Curtis Mead, he's another guy. Like, you're getting to the end of the road when it comes to what are they going to do with these guys that they've given chance after chance and opportunity to. Jonathan Aranda has made the most of it, right? You're not even having this conversation about Jonathan Aranda. But if he swung it this year, if he swung it this year the way he's done it the last couple of years when he's had his struggles, then he could be an option. But right now he's not, because he is a huge part of this team. He's not going anywhere. Curtis Mead crushed the ball in spring training. Crushed it. It was a no doubt. And at what point do we see Eloy Jimenez? Does he get an opportunity with the big club? Maybe. But not much to offer when it comes to defense, especially on a team that puts such a priority on their players defensively. But he can swing it, and he's got experience too. So maybe Curtis Mead is that guy, but I'm curious. I'm curious to see if people out there think that there's an option. There is a what happens when Ha-Seong Kim gets called up, because I'm very excited to see what he can bring to the table. All right. Also, what happened last night? Looking at the Florida Panthers winning that game against the Edmonton Oilers, and boy, was I dead wrong. I thought the team that had the better – well, I mean, I say that now. It depends on what happens tonight in the NBA Finals, where the Oklahoma City Thunder and Indiana Pacers play in their Game 3. They're in Indiana. I thought the Thunder had a better chance to win Game 3 than the Oilers. Right? No, the Oilers. I thought the Oilers had a better chance. I'm like, all right, going in, you got Connor McDavid, blah, blah, blah. Or did I? I don't remember what I said. I'm having a Oilers on the road. Indiana at home. Okay, yeah. Oilers. I just had a lot of faith in Edmonton. I thought they were going to do their thing. It did not work out well for them last night. 6-1. Shout out to Benny and the whole crew. It just did not work out well last night for the Edmonton Oilers right off the rip, and all game long. They're playing from behind, and Florida played their game. That was the Florida Panthers game. When you look at what happened in the first 10 minutes of this game, Evander Kane with a cross-check penalty, a high-stake penalty against Marchand, and then a too many men on the ice penalty as well. 3 penalties in the first 10 minutes. You're not going to win like that. Sorry. And then all the freaking penalties in the third period. But it's funny to hear Edmonton fans and to hear national media talk about, Florida's getting away with a bunch of stuff. Really? No shit, Sherlock. We've been talking about that for 6 weeks. My God. I mean, this is what they do. They push those buttons. They go to the edge of the, end of the line. Sometimes they go over the line. I'm looking back at some of the pictures from the last couple of years. So when I flew Frontier on the way up to Cary, North Carolina for the national championship game with UT, I was going through a lot of my old pictures. And a lot of my old pictures were the Tampa Bay Lightning from the runs in 19, 20, 21, and 22. And one of the ones that really stood out to me was Pat Maroon at center ice talking smack to Matt Martin and the New York Islanders. And of course, you guys know I keep a close eye on the Islanders. It's my dad's favorite team. But they were a team that they didn't get pushed around. They had a tough fourth line with Casey Cizikas, Cal Clutterbuck, and Matt Martin. Just a lot of tough guys on the team. Tough-minded, not afraid to go into the corner. Man, it's late night last night. Go into the corner and to be able to play some physical hockey. Barry Trotz was their coach, so you knew that they were going to play the game the right way. And here's Pat Maroon at center ice and just talking smack to Matt Martin and everybody there. And I'm sure that people looked at Pat Maroon and was like, look at this bully. Look at this piece of crap. Look at this guy trying to intimidate our guys. But that's what they had. That's what the Lightning had with him and Luke Shen and Zach Bogosian. Then everybody else stands a little bit taller. Then Gord stands taller and Braden Point and a lot of these other guys. The Tampa Bay Lightning put such a priority on that when Pat Maroon left, they brought in a guy like Tanner Jeannot, and they paid a king's ransom for it. It didn't work out. We know that was one of the major faux pas of Julien Brisebois' tenure with the Tampa Bay Lightning. But that move showed that they knew how important it was to not get pushed around, to not get intimidated. And there's a lot of people that look at what happened with Brendan Hagel and how he got hit by Aaron Ekblad, and there's people that aren't happy with how the Lightning respond to that or the lack of response. They just were not thrilled. I can't say I blame them. I sit next to Bobby the Chief Taylor all the time, and we talk about everything that's gone on in, his career and the Broad Street Bullies, and everybody laughs about the Broad Street Bullies now. They laugh about it. Oh, yeah, these guys fought all the time. They did this and, knocking people's teeth out. At that time in the 70s, do you think people loved the Broad Street Bullies? Hell no. If you were a fan of one of these other teams, you were like, these guys suck. These guys cheat. These guys are, bullies. And, there's no room for that in the game. I'm sure that was being said. But now everybody looks back at them affectionately like, oh, man, look at these ragtag bunch of guys, man. They really played the game hard, and they pushed everybody around. Good for them. 2-time Stanley Cup champions. That's what people are going to say about the Florida Panthers. They're going to say that they're tough, that they're rugged, that they play with an edge, that they don't get pushed around. They're in their third straight Stanley Cup final. They lost the first one. They won the second. What happens in this one against the Edmonton Oilers? Because this, I believe, is a career-defining series for Leon Draisaitl and for Connor McDavid. This is a team that's got two of the top 5 players in the NHL. You have a coach in Chris Knobloch that has been through the rigors, AHL standout. He has made sure that this team is not run and gun and gotten to a point where they are having defensive lapses or putting themselves in a position where they're not, structured in their zone. Obviously, last night is an aberration. You're not going to expect to see another 6-1 game in Game 3. But I look at Connor McDavid and I look at Leon Draisaitl, and I see two guys that really need to step up. A great comeback last season. Down 3-0. You force a Game 7. Unfortunately, they lose, but now's the time to take that next step. Now's that time to really put your foot in the ground and get, hey, now's it's I don't want to say it's now or never because they still have long careers ahead of them, but you just don't know. Joe Urso said that to me last night. He goes, Jay, we celebrate every championship like this because we don't know if we're ever going to win another one. Nothing is guaranteed. It's not wrong. A slew of players in the National Football League have held out, not attended minicamp. Let's go down the list, what we've seen so far. TJ Watt not attending Steelers minicamp. What is up with this team? What is up with these guys? Terry McLaurin skips minicamp as well for the Commanders. Trey Hendrickson, no surprise there with the Bengals. Jalen Ramsey also not there. We had this conversation with Ian yesterday, and I'd love to, because if you remember, we had Tim Benz on from up there in Pittsburgh, and whether it was on WDAE or here on the podcast, he has always been that guy that is, I don't want to say anti-Mike Tomlin, but he's not one of the guys that's, just following the orders and just saying, oh, he's a great coach. He would be hired in a second. Like, he looks at it going, if this guy is this good, why haven't we done more? Why haven't we gone to multiple Super Bowls? Whether you win or not, it is what it is. But how come they haven't made it to more AFC championship games? You can look at the roster construction and say, oh, well, the players, he's doing the best what he's got. Okay. But don't tell me that a head coach on a National Football League team doesn't have his fingerprints on roster construction and fingerprints on drafting players, signing players, trading for players. Like, he has a voice in that room. And when you look at Pittsburgh, whether it was Lev Bell, AB, Roethlisberger, Juju, George Pickens, now you get to a point with TJ Watt, Deontay Johnson. Like, there's just so many different things over the years. Listen, and all those guys I listed, they're not all, I don't want to say guilty, but they're not, I don't bring them all up for the same thing. But whether it's a contract holdout, or whether it's you're taking a video in the locker room, or whether there's some kind of beef, that never happened with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And now you have so many different guys. And oh yeah, you brought in Aaron Rodgers. Like, what has happened to the Pittsburgh Steelers that a lot of people know and love? Do you honestly think, if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, that your team is going to win the Super Bowl this year? Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Where is that team that can run the football? Where is that team that plays tough-nosed defense? Where's that consistent team that you know is not going to deal with a bunch of headaches? That's not the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it hasn't been them for the last 15 years. At what point does Mike Tomlin have to be held accountable for that? I'm not saying fire the guy. My question is he just, he's one of the most respected coaches around the league. But is it time for a change? Is it time for a change in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin? You could have the greatest coach ever. Listen, in my opinion, the greatest coach in the four major sports is Scotty Bowman. And Scotty Bowman will tell you, every single manager or head coach in professional sports has a shelf life. Sometimes you have to move on. Sometimes you need a new voice. Sometimes you need a new leader at the helm. I mean, look at what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did. Look at what the Knicks are doing. Look at what's, sometimes you got to switch it up. Doesn't mean you hate the guy. Doesn't mean he sucks as a coach. But players need a different voice. Maybe you do need a new general manager. Maybe that has something to do with it. I'm not taking that off the table. But I don't look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and think, man, they're getting closer. You want to look at teams and you want to see guys and players and the way that the rosters are being formulated and think they're building something. Look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're building something after Brady. They're trying to get on the right track. I don't know what Pittsburgh is doing. And now TJ Watt's not going to camp. Ugh. Terry McLaurin not being in camp. Now with Deebo Samuel being there and having a young quarterback with Jaden Daniels. He better be there. It's a mandatory minicamp for a reason. I know it's not regular training camp, but my God. Get on out there. Get on out there and get involved with this team and try to put this team in a position to win. Because I said this with Ian yesterday. It is hard enough to win in the National Football League when everybody's on the same page, when you're not having any holdouts. But when you have a situation like what we're seeing in Pittsburgh, where you deal with Aaron Rodgers, and now you're dealing with TJ Watt not being there, and you're not good enough to beat Baltimore, and you're not good enough to beat Buffalo and Kansas City. You might not be good enough to beat the Chargers or the Bengals. Oh, my gosh. I feel bad for my Pittsburgh people. I really do. Because I think they're getting farther and farther away from being a championship contender. You think Justin Fields is the guy? I do like Justin Fields. I think he's got some skill. I don't know what his long-term prognosis as a quarterback in the National Football League, but I know that you need a guy that can run. Know that for a fact. I know you need a guy that can get outside the pocket and to be able to extend these plays, whether extending them and then running for a first down, or extending them or keeping his eyes downfield to be able to make a pass. Because we're getting farther and farther away from a league with pocket passers just sitting in the pocket doing the same old thing. So Justin Fields, leg up there for the New York Jets. Is he going to be good? We'll see. I think he's got a better chance to be good this year than he did last year, but he's also going to get more opportunities too. Going to be a hell of a week 1 matchup with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Jets. A little bit of a revenge game for Aaron Rodgers, playing against his former team, in a revenge game for Justin Fields as well. All right, let's bring him in. Our pal from Pewter Report, the one and only Matt Matera. What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm doing well, Jay. Great to be on. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm good, man. I am good. Great to see you and the folks at Pewter Report over there at camp today. Let's just start off. What was your biggest takeaway, man? What's the one thing that stood out to you among the rest?
Well, the first thing is that finally we can ease the tensions about Hassan Reddick, whether or not he's going to be there. I know the reports were out yesterday, and the Bucs even posted a picture of, him in a Bucs uniform. But now everyone can kind of shut up about whether or not he's going to be there. He was there. It was good to see him practicing and in uniform. But I was pretty impressed by the overall defensive performance, especially in the red zone and goal line situations. A lot of stop by that defense. A lot of communication. The linebackers are dancing around, and Levante David's not even practicing. So really more impressed by what I saw from the defense today.
Yeah, I know you wrote an article about the ball hawk when it comes to Pewter Report. I mean, how big are the turnovers going to be for this defense this year? We know we talk about the pass rush a lot, but, man, I just look at whether it's the corners, Morrison or Bryce Hall, or a guy like Jacob Parrish, or even Antoine Mayfield Jr. himself. Like, these guys really, that's one of the big things when it comes to Todd Bowles in this defense, is that making sure that you're taking the football away, and turnovers are a priority for them.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, that was a staple of this team in 2020 when they won the Super Bowl. In 2021, when they won the division and had a career high 13 wins. But, last season, they only had 7 interceptions in total, and 6 of them were by the secondary. The sack numbers, they were down from the outside linebackers. It was Kalijah Cansey leading the way, and he missed the first month of the season. So we heard Todd Bowles all offseason talk about ball hawks. They need it. I think Tyke Smith playing more will certainly help with that. And like you mentioned, Jacob Parrish being in there, got his hands on the football today. Healthy Bryce Hall just as a 4th string option at corner, I think is big time as well. And it goes hand in hand because that improved pass rush that we expect to see with Hassan Reddick and Yaya Diaby getting more one-on-one opportunities because he's not the main focal point. It's all a symphony that's being put together, and they're going to need it. I think that was big time in the postseason as well when they lost to the Commanders. Yeah, they had some 4th down stops, but they didn't get any key crucial turnovers to really help sway the game into their direction and move that pendulum. So turnovers is what Todd Bowles knows how to do as a defensive play caller, and they got to get back to that this season if they want to be a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
When we saw the front 4 guys over there in the corner today, with Kalijah Cansey, Vita Vea, Yaya, and Hassan Reddick, 2 guys joined them towards the end of their workout, and one was Logan Hall, not a surprise there, but the other one was Desmond Watson. I wanted to get your opinion on what you saw from him today. I mean, obviously he's a big body, but from the last time you were able to see him to this time, how did he look to you? And what are the chances that he makes this 53? Because there was, obviously other defensive linemen that were out there today, but they weren't over with those guys. It seems like the Buccaneers are going to give him every look that they can to see if he can contribute to this roster.
He's going to have a lot of opportunities. I mean, they did draft Elijah Roberts out of SMU, who did have a sack today, and he's got a lot of versatility. But for Desmond Watson, just saw more understanding of the defense. It's pretty much where you're going to get at this time of the year without shoulder pads and true physicality going on. His chances of making the team, I think he has a good spot or a good chance, in my opinion, to make the practice squad. Because I still think he's a work in progress. He's got to have the speed down. That's going to be the biggest thing for him. can he play at an NFL level style of speed? You can get away with his gigantic size in college football, depending on the opponent. I know he's going to be difficult to move around, but you're not just going to keep a guy because, oh, he can stop the tush push and that's all he can do. So I think he's a great reclamation project. Put him on the practice squad, see how he can develop, and maybe you call him up for a game or two, depending on what happens with injuries or the opponent that type of week. But he is a spectacle. There's no doubt about it. I've kind of compared it, Jay, to Andre the Giant back in the day in wrestling. Like, it didn't matter whether or not he had the title. It was, oh my God, like, we want to see this gigantic person. And you kind of get that a little bit with Desmond Watson.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's not here to be a circus act or anything like that. He's here to play football, make the team, and make a difference for the Bucs. But you can't help but be a little bit mesmerized when he's practicing.
Yeah, it's I'm with you, man. It's hard not to watch him, right? And it's not in a malicious kind of way. It's not like a, you know, point your finger like, oh, look at that freak. Like, it's not like that. It's just because he's a big guy and he's a pretty good athlete, man. He really is. I mean, you don't go to Florida and, you know, play in the SEC and get brought into an NFL team if you don't have some kind of talent to go along with that big size. I want to ask you about Shiloh Sanders too. I mean, this is another guy that people are going to be keeping a close eye on. Coach Bull seems to really like what he's done so far and love his, you know, how vocal he is. And he's really taking to Tampa, taking a lot of videos, walking around the city. Like, what do you see about Shiloh? And I ask you that same question. What are his chances of making the roster?
I don't think his chances are that great. I mean, he came in as an undrafted free agent with J.J. Roberts, who played at Marshall, and Roberts was the one that, you know, got the big undrafted free agent money, if you will. I mean, he's making way more than Shiloh Sanders. That's not to say that Shiloh can't make the team. Again, he's more of a practice squad type of guy. I appreciate how much he's really embraced the city of Tampa, finding new places to eat, working out at random parks when the facility's not open. I think there's a good spot for him on the practice squad. Same with J.J. Roberts. It just kind of depends on how the Bucs want to allocate those resources to the practice squad. But Shiloh hasn't made a ton of plays. There's only been so many defensive backs that have made plays so far, and that's mostly been Jacob Parrish. We saw Bryce Hall with an interception today. So none of the safeties have really popped off the way I think a lot of us have expected to. I would be more inclined to say that Roberts could make the roster. I mean, even Jason Light went out of his way to single out J.J. Roberts yesterday when he was on the Pewter Report podcast. So there's an opportunity for Shiloh, no doubt about it. I wouldn't be shocked if he made the practice squad, but he's not even the number one undrafted free agent safety on this team.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we mentioned yesterday on our podcast here to make sure that you guys check out the Pewter Report podcast at 4:00 with Buccaneers general manager Jason Light. What was your biggest takeaway from that chat with him? I mean, it's not every day,
right?
You get to chat with the general manager of a National Football League team. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate Jason Light coming on. We got to speak with him for a whole hour. And I really just think you hope that a GM is really in tune and in line with what's going on with the team. I mean, you're the one bringing in these guys. But I think Jason Light has learned a lot about himself as a general manager. I mean, he's been here for over a decade now as the GM of this team. So I think he understands, like, when to make a move, when to go all in, when to kind of like lean back a little bit and wait a little bit. And, you know, he was talking about Baker Mayfield, and he's like, there's so many other teams out there that, you know, overpay or trade too much for a quarterback that they might not even believe in. But it's kind of like, well, we need a quarterback, so we're going to go and just get a quarterback for the sake of having a quarterback on this team. So I just think he has such an understanding of what this team needs, how he works with Todd Bowles, what works for Todd Bowles. So just making the right picks year in and year out, and how much of it is a group effort and a team effort. It's not just Jason. It's everybody in the scouting department. It's the money people. It's the talent evaluators. And it's a benefit to Jason that he's been able to hold on to so many of these guys and girls. You know, John Spytek obviously went to the Raiders this year, but outside of that, they have a core nucleus in place. And therefore, it's not a surprise that this team has made the postseason 5 years in a row.
Yeah, it's funny how people were like, oh, yeah, Spytek's gone, so Jason Light's not going to be able to do anything. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that's the way it is. We're not taking anything away from Spytek and, you know, wish him the best. But Jason Light is a talented guy, and he recognizes the smart people that he can put around him so that this team continues to be successful. Your biggest concern about this Buccaneers team going into the summer is what?
That's a good question. I would have said inside linebacker, but they really I've been really impressed with this linebacker group again, with Levante David not having played yet. So I would say maybe depth at safety. You know,
Okay.
they got a thing going on with Antoine Winfield Jr.'s returning, and you have Tyke Smith, who's getting cross-trained as the nickel again, which he played last year, but the Bucs aren't fully committing to him at strong safety. You have Tavon Merriweather, who's another undrafted free agent, and then the other undrafted free agents this year that we just talked about with Shiloh Sanders and J.J. Roberts. What happens if Winfield is out for a little bit again? Yes, Christian Isian's in the mix, but he's also in the mix at safety. So I think safety kind of becomes the concern a little bit in terms of what happens if the starters are out, in terms of depth on that side. Outside of that, I mean, offensively, they covered every base, right? I mean, you can only do so much with quarterback, but they added more to receiver. They brought back the same starting offensive line. The running back room is looking pretty good. Tight end's a little bit thin. So I guess if I'm picking offense, I'd say tight end. But overall, this is a team that covered a lot of spots that were issues last year. They are filled with depth this upcoming season.
What would you say is the position group that is the biggest strength for the Bucs?
Wide receiver. It has to be. I mean,
over offensive line.
Well, now that Tristan Wirfs has a wrap around his leg, yeah, you know what? Probably offensive line.
That's it. I mean, I think it's those two, right? I mean, I look at it and I think those are the top two. It's just, I think
they're the most established.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I don't think you're wrong, you know, if you say wide receiver, but
yeah,
I look at the offensive line and look at Gedeke and Wirfs, and I think we're all under the assumption that Graham Barton takes a huge step forward in year two with that. You know, if he doesn't, then I think that's the ultimate tipping point where if Graham Barton struggles this year, then it's definitely wide receiver. But I think you're with me. I think we look at Graham Barton, and I think he's going to be strong. But it's great to not have a consensus, isn't it?
Yeah, right. I mean, Jason on the show yesterday, we asked him like where he feels they're deepest on offense and defense, and on offense he said wide receiver, so that's probably why I went with wide receiver. But yeah, Graham Barton, I think he's got a lot of Pro Bowls in his future. I think he's got an All-Pro or two in his future as well. Maybe not this upcoming season, but he's a guy that he just gets it. Yeah. He understands what he can do well, what he doesn't do well. He grinds the tape. He's worked so hard this offseason as well. He's got a really high football IQ. He's already building on top of the leadership that a center needs to have on this team. And, you know, he's got a great foundation and a group of guys around him with Tristan Wirfs, obviously, and Luke Gedeke, both at tackle. And then working in unison once again with Cody Mauch and Ben Bredesen. That's huge. That doesn't happen all the time for any offensive lineman, let alone young and up-and-coming players going into their second year. So the sky is the limit for Graham Barton, really, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table. Let me ask you about Rachaad White. Hearing what he had to say after his Instagram post, were you buying that or what?
I buy it to a degree. I think he kind of just let it. I think he was listening to country music and stuff like that, but I also think he kind of sees the writing on the wall a little bit. It's not exactly like the front office or people are pushing him out of town, but you know, Bucky Irving became a sensation. Sean Tucker became a sensation for a week when he won Offensive Player of the Week.
Right.
You have everybody banging the table for him to get more reps. And Rachaad White's still very important to this team.
He is.
But people don't view it in the sense of, oh, well, he's an important third down guy. And then there's another undrafted free agent, Josh Williams out of LSU, has been turning some heads as well. So I don't want to say Rachaad White's been pushed out, but everybody's kind of looking over the fence a little bit to see what else they have at running back. But Rashaad's been very zen. You know, he talked about it still having a great relationship with Bucky. He said he's going to go with the flow this season with the offensive plan. So I think Rashaad's in a pretty good headspace going into the year. He told us that he dropped 10 pounds. He's a little bit slimmer going into this training camp. So he's a motivated dude, but I don't think there's a sense of anger as well.
Who do you think is that guy that's going to take that next step? And I'm not talking about Tristan or Baker. I'm talking about a second, third, fourth year guy. Yaya, Kalijah, J-Mac, you know what I'm talking about. 2, 3, or 4 year guy that you think is going to take the biggest leap this year.
Yeah, I have two guys in mind, and they play at the same school. Jalen McMillan. Now, it didn't help that he had a drop today on a deep ball, but he's another guy that I think is going to get overlooked a little bit because Emeka Egbuka was a first-round pick. Tez Johnson was picked as well, and then Chris Godwin was re-signed. So everyone's already looking at Emeka Egbuka. But last week at OTAs with Mike not here and Chris Godwin still injured, Baker Mayfield was building that chemistry with Jalen McMillan. And I think we kind of forget about the big strides that Jalen McMillan took at the end of last season and all the touchdowns he was scoring and the ways that he was getting open. I think the yards after the catch need to improve for him this season, and he's going to be pushed by Emeka Egbuka. He's not just going to sit there and open the door for Emeka Egbuka to be the third string wide receiver. So I expect a lot of big stuff from Jalen McMillan. And then Cade Otton as well, the starting tight end. He's in a contract year. We'll see what kind of contract extensions come from the Bucs this year. But, if I'm ranking it, 3 guys that are eligible for an extension in the last year of their contract between Luke Gedeke, Zion McCollum, and Cade Otton, Otton's probably the third guy I would pick out of that group. But he's been consistent. He's gotten better as a receiving tight end each year. He's physical as a blocker, so I think he can improve on his blocking a little bit more. And then, he's never going to outgain Mike Evans and a healthy Chris Godwin. But he shows up in some clutch spots. I think he can show a little bit more of his receiving ability this year and get into a situation where teams are going to focus on Mike, Chris, Jalen McMillan, and Emeka Egbuka. Well, that's going to give some good opportunities for Cade Otton to kind of exploit some weaknesses of the defense with some opportunities. So I'm looking for Cade Otton to have some motivation in a contract year, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has his best year to date.
Yeah, it's a good position group for them as well, but I don't want to say average, but I don't think any of those guys are bad, right? I just think they all bring something to the table. Devin Culp's super athletic. Payne Durham blocked way better last year. I think anybody, even himself, thought was going to be. All right, before I get you out of here, of course, got to ask you some wrestling stuff. Best male performer in the world right now, best female performer in the world right now. Not saying of all time. Who's at the top of their game right now, male, female?
Oh, man. Everyone has so many different styles. Mr. Iguana. No.
He's great.
I got to say, man, I don't know if he's the best performer, but every time I watch Logan Paul wrestle, I get more and more impressed. I get why people don't like him. I
love it. I love that.
And all this stuff.
I love that he pisses people off, man. Because listen, there's everybody wants to be a cool heel nowadays, right? Even Solo Sikoa is a heel, but he's funny. Like, he's making fun of Penta's thing. He's doing the LA Knight thing during Money in the Bank. Like, you're not a true heel. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But yeah, like Logan, just again, he doesn't come from a wrestling background. He's doing moonsaults and all these great moves and all these innovative things. It's just very entertaining to watch. So I hate when people are like, "Oh, WrestleMania is going to be Mr. Beast versus Logan Paul one year." Mr. Beast ain't doing these flips. But Penta, Cierro Miedo is awesome to watch.
Yep.
Chad Gable, say what you will about his other gimmick, but in ring, he's incredible.
He's insane.
On the women's side, Liv Morgan is just so entertaining. Again, I don't know if she's the best in-ring wrestler, but like she always puts on good matches and very entertaining. Rhea Ripley's the GOAT as well. So there's so many options in the women's division. But I think, everyone complains about TKO and the advertising and cutting our truth and all these things. And I think everyone's very justified in those anger and disappointment and all those things. But week in and week out, there's a lot of quality matches. A lot of the storylines are very entertaining. So I don't think the WWE or even AEW are in all of these terrible spots the way everybody wants to act like the sky is falling.
Right. It's not so black and white where it's like, oh, everything's great, everything sucks. There's like a lot of gray in in that whole entire thing. For my money right now, I think when it comes to the men, I gotta agree with you, man. I think Chad Gable's on another level right now. I also think Jacob Fatu is also, every single time they step out, they're doing crazy things. I also think on the women's side, Stephanie Vaquer is a
Yes.
star.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
She is
I
a
didn't really,
woman.
I don't know a ton about NXT. Not to cut you off, I apologize.
No, you're
But
good.
when she came on to Raw like a month or two ago. She had some awesome matches, and she continues to have great matches. So that's a great call.
She's Chilean, like my sister-in-law. So I always like anybody from Chile. I always keep a close eye on, and I know there was a lot of talk of where Stephanie Vaquer and Julia were both going to end up, and then when they both went to NXT, I know that was a huge surprise. And now they're both called up within the year. But
Yeah.
Stephanie Vaquer wrestled 3 matches the other day in 24 hours. She's strong enough to go against a Rhea Ripley, but also like athletic enough to go against like an Io Sky and a Bianca Belair. Like and her skill set is so unique and diverse, and she's already got that crazy move where everybody sees her butt and she's slamming a girl's head. Like
Booker
Booker T helped
her move the way other wrestlers have.
I mean that's what you got to do, man. That's I think that's the most important thing, to be able to find something that resonates with people. And Logan Paul's that guy, right? It pisses people off, but it resonates with people.
Yeah.
And that's the point. It's supposed to invoke emotion. Give me before I let you go, John Cena, who is his last match against? Who does he lose the title to? Is it the same match?
What was the first part of that question?
Who is John Cena's final match against? And then who does he lose the title to?
I think he's going to lose the title to Cody.
Okay.
I think Cody gets it back. Hopefully not at SummerSlam, because I'm trying to go to SummerSlam, as I told
There you go.
His last opponent, I think he's going to kind of do the right thing and give it to an up-and-coming person. Because they already did Randy. They're about to do CM Punk.
Yeah.
And I don't think they would do a repeat match that was already on this.
Right.
On this
only 19 dates left. Yep.
Yeah. So I've seen like Braun Breaker floated around there. I don't know how you get to that storyline. I'm trying to think like who else they could like bring back from his past. Like you're not gonna do like John Cena, Rey Mysterio, or something like that.
No. Edge, Daniel Bryan, those guys ain't coming back.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, Roman Reigns.
Maybe Roman won last time, but he never really beat Roman. Like him and Kevin Owens won in a tag team match.
Yeah.
He never really pinned Roman, so it's like you're gonna do another match where he loses. So I don't know. Like I guess I'll go with Braun Breaker, but that's not really an original thought.
No, I'm with you.
I gotta look at the whole. Maybe Dom Mysterio would be very interesting.
Oh, that would be, and maybe it's an NXT guy, right? Obafemi, right? Obafemi's a monster, the NXT champion. So maybe he's a guy that comes up, or I still think he's gonna wrestle Joe Hendry at some point. Does he show up? And people say 19 dates. Maybe one of those is at TNA. We don't really know.
Yeah.
But I think I like him with Logan Paul because again, John Cena getting cheered if he's a heel doesn't really make much sense. But if he's with Logan Paul and people think he sucks and Cena, like he's getting that negative rub, I think it works really well. He is the last real Matt. Pewter Reports, Matt Matera. We love him. Make sure you follow him on social media at Matty Matty 4 underscore Matera. You're never gonna go back to Matt Matera. Is there anybody else that's just Matt Matera? You like the Matty 4? He's gonna rock with it. I think we froze you. Are you there? Oh no, that was my most important question. He froze. Is he there? Matt? All right, pal. Good stuff. You froze on me. Matty4 underscore Matera. Check him out at Pewter Report, pewterreport.com. Go check them out. Follow on all social media platforms. Those guys do a lot of great stuff. 30 years. Our guy Scott Reynolds has been covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Matt wrote a really nice article about him. So make sure you go check him out. pewterreport.com. Always good to catch up with Matty. Let's see. Grant Jordan's going to be joining us here in a bit. Make sure everything else is going well on the stream. Okay, good. We love you, Matt. Thank you so much for joining us, my friend. All right, good stuff. Let's see. Am I missing anything else that is happening? Any pertinent information? That's a tough thing when you're working by yourself. You have to wonder, like, hey, what's going on? And look through everything that's going on. Do you see this thing with Christian Pulisic and liking the tweet that his dad had to Landon Donovan complaining about what the deal is with these American soccer players. Like, it's always going to be club over country here. You're making the millions of dollars. And there's just not that same type of, I have to represent my country. It's not going to be like that here, maybe ever. People will do it, but it's always going to be a convenience thing. It always has to, well, I'm going to weigh my pros and cons. I look at soccer, and even after the series, like even after the season is done, you see Cristiano Ronaldo and Bruno Fernandes already out there doing their thing. Just a couple of weeks later. It's wild. Let's see what else. Jonnu Smith did not participate in Dolphins mandatory minicamp. I mentioned that. He and Jalen Ramsey. Cardinals signed their first-round pick, Walter Nolan. Tristan Wirfs was sidelined by injury, but he's going to be okay for training camp. We mentioned that before. Kirk Cousins is in attendance for Falcons minicamp. I know that Michael Penix Jr. has already said that he will not be a distraction. I don't think that he would be anyway, but I wonder what's going to happen when it comes to the quarterback carousel, the quarterback merry-go-round over the next couple of weeks. And Cameron Jordan has already gone on Up and Adams and implored Jameis Winston to come back, and Jameis a backup with the New York Football Giants right now. But I just don't see how that works out for Jameis. Russell Wilson looked good. Again, it's just T-shirt and shorts, but him throwing to Darius Slayton and Malik Neighbors and to Wan'Dale Robinson and Tyrone Tracy, like there's some talent on that offensive side of the ball, but it all comes down to, right, are you going to be able to protect him? Are you going to be able to run the football? And what does that mean for Jameis? Because if Russell, who, has done a really good job staying healthy in his career, like, don't you want to play? We were having this conversation today about Kyle Trask. Like, why is Kyle Trask still with the Buccaneers? Like, are you just waiting for Baker to get hurt? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Go out there and try to play. I could never do that. And people say, oh, yeah, you need to do this and do that. And there's places for role players and all that, blah, 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 blah. Okay, buddy. Just want to say goodbye to my guy, Matt Matera. But, like, if you're Kyle Trask, like, you're just waiting you're not going to get an opportunity to compete. What you're doing is waiting for a Baker injury. That would drive me crazy. Is that a bad sign? Like, is that a sign of a lack of competitive fire and competitiveness? And I don't know for sure, but I think it's a fair question to broach. If I'm Kyle Trask, I get drafted in the second round. And I know just getting drafted in the second round doesn't mean you're a second round talent. I get that. But you have to think, if you're getting drafted in the second round, that you're probably going to have a good chance to compete for a job. He hasn't. Quarterback competition, my ass. He didn't play that bad against Baker Mayfield. And you think, if you're Jason Light, and we know how much Jason loves Baker now, it's fascinating to me, the Kyle Trask situation. Jason loves Baker. He loves his attitude. He loves his demeanor, right? He's not afraid to, pay this guy. And I understand that. But you spend a second-round pick on Kyle Trask. For what? For what? You're not looking to trade the guy to New Orleans or any of these other teams. And he re-signs here. He's the only quarterback in history to get signed by or to get drafted by the Buccaneers to sign a second contract. Like, I don't get it. Like, what do you do if you're Kyle Trask? Like, what's your mode of operation? What is your thought process? Are you like, hey, I'm Jim Sorgi, I'm Chase Daniel, I'm just going to be a backup? Like, okay. If that's what you want to do, hey, whatever, to each their own. But do you want to play? Like, you're that close. You're that close, and you really haven't gotten a chance. And don't tell me preseason is a chance. And I'm not saying that he's better than anybody in the league, but don't you want to know? Like, that would drive me crazy if I had no idea if I was good enough to be an NFL quarterback, but I was that close. He's not the third quarterback. He's not Ryan Griffin. He's the second quarterback on this team. And he really hasn't gotten a chance to really lead this offense. It's just, I don't know. I really, really don't know. And I got to tell you right now, couldn't be me. I want to play. I want to play. I don't want to be out there with a clipboard. I don't want to be out there on Sundays watching somebody else do the job. No, thank you, my friend. I want to compete for a spot. I want to win. I want to be a champion. That is what it is all about. And speaking of champions, we have a two-time national champ, Grant Jordan, joining us on the show. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Sure.
Thanks so much for joining me.
Good.
Man.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, you got it, man. So you're a two-time national champ. I saw it on your Instagram. I mean, two-time national champion. How does that feel? We'll get into the specifics in a second, but you put two-time national champ in your IG bio. Like, yeah, I mean, that's legit, man.
You got to throw it in there, you got to let the people know. Pretty great, Just make it to the end every year.
Hell yeah, man. Well, let's go back to
I feel like when you're playing baseball as a team.
No doubt about it. Take me through your start. Obviously winning the national championship with Pasco-Hernando this year after UT last year. Just take us through your start as a kid growing up here in the Tampa Bay area, playing ball, going to school, going to Jesuit. Just take me through your playing days, what your focus was as you got closer to playing for Miguel Menendez and one of the great high school programs here in the country.
Yeah, so originally I'm from St. Pete, and going into Jesuit to high school is kind of my entrance into the Tampa community. And I like to say I'm kind of a Tampian right now. We really fell in love with the city. But I guess going into Jesuit, the main goal there, my mom, her idea of sending me there was just playing a good baseball team, And just Coach Menendez, I think from day one, he saw a lot in me that I never even knew. Because I was always just a kid that I was just playing baseball, I was just playing baseball because I liked it. It was kind of getting into that like junior, senior year where I realized that I'm good, I realized that like there's something more to this, and that you can grind and become better and better every day. And that's kind of what Jesuit instilled in me, just gave me that confidence and kind of showed me who I was. And it really helped just facing all that good talent that Tampa has, and the baseball community that Tampa has really just brought me in. It was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Nick Rodriguez a couple of weeks ago, and he had such a great year this year. And then talking to your buddy Trip Russo, and Trip is such a great kid, comes from a great family, and one thing that always sticks out to me is that just the close knit group of the Jesuit Tigers, right? And some people there's going to be people that hate on you because of all the success over the years and the state championships and the future major leaguers. But what is it about that brotherhood? What is it about that camaraderie that you guys have, that the bonds, they're strong when you're playing, but it seems like those bonds stay strong even after your playing career?
Yeah, I will say first, like every state championship, national championship team I've played on, the one key factor is everyone's close on a team. It's kind of hard to win when you're on a selfish squad and everyone just wants to do good for their own. You got to have a real tight-knit group. And Jesuit the baseline of Jesuit is the brotherhood, going to class every day with your boys, you have no distractions. It's just you and the guys. You go out into the field, you can just shoot the crap, just talk whatever. There's nothing really holding you back. There's no women distracting you. So you're kind of, I wouldn't say forced, but more encouraged that like you're just coming together as a whole.
Yeah, it's a great point. And for me, like I always said that I could never go to Jesuit, and they're like, why? And I was like, because I needed that distraction. I needed the beautiful women in high school. So you guys are a lot stronger than I am, buddy. I wouldn't have been able to go to Jesuit. But to be able to play with all that talent, tell me a little bit more about that, about Miguel believing in you, because there's a lot of good players there, man. There's a lot of guys that sit. There's a lot of guys that really don't get an opportunity to play till their senior year. And even, they do get to the senior year, they may just be a part-time player. But what are some of those things specifically that Miguel saw in you that really kind of helped you get prepared for the next level?
Yeah, so when I realized that he kind of saw something in me, it was my junior year. The first couple of weeks of it, I was hurt and I just wasn't playing, and I was kind of worried, like, am I going to have a spot, or how's that working, or all the all the factors that play into that. And when I became healthy, I got this starting job and I kind of rolled with it. He gave me a good little leash to get back into the comfortability of that. And then that was when I kind of realized that like he was more of like somewhat of a father figure to me, you know. He always just believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. And that's really what you need, especially as a young high school kid. You need your coach to believe in you, especially in baseball. You know, it's one of those sports where if you lose the mental, you lose everything.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
a
he
great
kind of
point.
just he has all the talent in the world, you know. Has all the talent in the world. His job is really just to obviously keep developing everybody, but also at the same time keep everyone head on their shoulders.
Yeah, I love that, and that's what
And that's
makes
when you really grow.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that's what makes Mikael so good. And he's such a great guy, great dad, great husband, and just he's in a position to where they compete every single year there at Jesuit. So take us through kind of the next step of like, all right, now you have a good career at Jesuit, and then you look at it, it's like, all right, now where am I playing ball at the next level? Take us through that thought process, and what are some of the conversations that you have with coach, with some other coaches, and with your family as you get ready to embark on that next step of your journey?
Yeah, so I think I was going into my senior year. I didn't really have much, you know. I saw that the Nick Rod clip where he was talking. He didn't really have much going, you know. I was kind of in that same boat where I knew I was good enough to play at the next level, but I just wasn't under the spotlight of summer ball, because that summer ball is the real big thing for baseball. You know,
Right.
it's very tough for high school to get picked up out there. But Jesuit got me to UT, and I'm forever grateful for that. You know, even though I didn't play that much, I didn't have a great year. It was a lot. It was a big turning point in my career where I kind of learned how to grind there. So even though I could always say I wish I went JUCO my first year, I wish I did things differently. I'm always grateful for that year I had at UT, and just learning from all the older guys there, and just that's where I really like when you're down in the dumps. That's when you really find out who you are as a person. Because the only way out is up, you know.
You got that right, man. I love that mindset. I love that thought process, and being with the, talking to Coach Joe and talking to some of the players, and some of the guys that I was talking to over the last couple of days didn't play a whole ton. They didn't pitch a lot. They didn't play, but my guy Danny Gutcher that I've known since he was 5 years old, he didn't play a ton last year. As the year went on, where Santi was playing so well, and Danny had some good moments where he hit a bunch of home runs last year, and just that's the great thing is I think in a part of any kind of successful team or any kind of successful business, like everybody has to play their role. And sometimes your role may be a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit bigger, but now translating into a situation where you go to Pasco-Hernando and you're a member of the Bobcats, and, you're hitting a grand slam in the World Series and things like that. What was that like going there to PHSC, playing for Coach Coleman? And, did you know that you were going to start? Did you know that you were going to be a big part of the team? Like, what was your thought process going in, and how did your game and your mental evolve over the season?
Yeah, so I will say leaving Tampa was kind of one of the hardest decisions I've had to make up until this point. You're leaving such a great institution, coming from Jesuit to Tampa. You're kind of set up afterwards if you stay in the area. And it was a big thing I had to pray about and just think about. And I was like, you know what? If I really want to do this baseball and give it my all, I don't want to have any regrets. So my friend Clay Thompson, who's actually went to Jesuit with me, he got me to go to Pasco. And in the fall, I worked my tail off, I would say that. But, baseball's that sport where there's ups and downs. And Lyndon Coleman's one of those guys where he kind of gets to you mentally, but it's all for the better good. I know a lot of guys kind of take what he's saying to heart and kind of push him away. And that's when if you can't survive him, then you're not going to survive the game of baseball. Right. That's how it is. I remember in my exit meeting in the fall, he was like, Grant, you have a chance to be a stud or you have a chance to sit the bench. It's just between your ears, but it's up in your head, I was like, you know what? You're right. And I took that winter, grinded a little bit.
What was it? Actually. Grant, what was it? When he says it's between your ears, was it a lack of focus? Was it a lack of work ethic? Was it just what was it? Because people say between the ears, and obviously you had all the God-given the physical tools. What was it specifically between the ears that you had to adjust?
Yeah, it was just kind of when I was at UT, it was the first thing of failure I was dealing with, and I was still I was trying to get to where I was in high school. You know, I lost that confidence. I lost that in myself. I was still gaining it back in the fall. I was still losing it. I wasn't very secure in my ability. I was just still looking for that swing, you know? And you can't – baseball's one of those games, as, you know, I said before, that if you start doubting yourself, and you can doubt yourself pretty quick, you know?
Yeah.
You go 0 for 1, and then if you let it get to your head, you're going 0 for 2, 0 for 3, 0 for 4. And so it's just kind of one of those things where you can't really care. You can't really care about you only thing you can care about is the preparation you do before the game. When you get into the game, you just give it to God and just hope the best happens. You did all you can to prepare yourself for that moment. And that's what I kind of really learned at Pasco.
And then when you came back after the fall, what was that? Was there a switch that flipped? When did you know, like, when did coach give you that opportunity? Like, was there a moment where he was like, hey, there you go. That's what I wanted to see. Because, man, to be able to go from a guy that, you know, was on the teeter-totter, didn't really know, to a guy that was a big-time contributor to the championship. How did that start? How did that change throughout the season?
So beginning of the year, I was kind of the fourth infielder. I was kind of just playing twice a week. Me and another guy were playing twice a week, switching off playing time. And I remember we were playing at State College of Florida, and LC talked to me. He was like, you know what, Grant? I was the fifth outfielder. And when he was at Barry, he was like, other guy got hurt. I started doing good. Other things happened, and then I became the starter. I kind of think back about that now, kind of like it was kind of a precursor somewhat to my story. And it wasn't until like 3 or 4 weeks in that I was a starting player. And I remember LC called me, goes, Grant, can you play short? And I was just like, you know what? I mean, I've played third base my whole life. I'll give it a go, you know? I was like, just a kid's game.
Yeah.
If I can do it, I'll do it. And if I can't, then you just gotta find another place for me. And luckily I did it pretty well. And I earned my starting role on the squad.
Man, that's such a great story. So now let's fast forward and let's go to the championship. And, you know, you come up big, you hit you guys are down. You guys are down. It looks bleak. And then boom, 2 freaking grand slams in the same inning. What was it like? And coach said guys were like hyperventilating. They were like vomiting. They were puking. They were just, I mean, the emotions were crazy. I was in North Carolina this past weekend with UT, bro. And I think I'm finally now, like, my nerves are finally settling. What was that like to be a part of? You know, it's one thing to win, but to have a comeback victory, to have it so dramatic like that, it's hard enough to watch as a fan, as a friend, as a family member. But what is it like to be a part of that?
Yeah, I mean, if I had one word, I would just say special, you know? I remember going into that, it was 7th inning. They had a really big inning. We're down 7-3. It's kind of one of those things. It's like you can't give up now. You know, you made it this far. You can't just lay down and let them roll over you. And I remember that inning started off. We got bases loaded. There's a guy in first and second, and Clay Thompson, who was right next to me. I was like, you know what, Clay, it might have to be me. And then, yeah, I went out to bat. I had this feeling that I was going to do it. I was going to be the guy. And then the rest kind of took place. I remember getting back to that dugout. I kind of blacked out, you know, when you that big of a moment, you kind of just, you don't know what's going on. Just emotions take over. I remember running to that dugout and just, I almost had to throw up just from just pure emotion, just raw excitement. And then our boy Brandon Durfee went to, I think, Lando Lakes. He comes up big and kind of seals the deal. He was actually my roommate too in the hotel. It's kind of a little,
bro, Grand Slam hotel roomies, bro. I mean, 8 RBIs between the two of you in the game. I mean, my God, that's amazing, man. And listen, so much baseball, so much great baseball here in the Tampa Bay area, and you guys certainly made us proud winning the national championship, man. And it was great to talk to Coach Coleman a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, so now what's next, Grant? I mean, obviously, I mean, you've had such a unique life, my friend, and you still got your whole life ahead of you. What's next for you on the field, off the field? What's going on this summer? Give me a day in the life of Grant Jordan as we go forward.
Yeah, so right now I just moved into my summer ball host family. I'm up in Leesburg, Orlando. So
nice.
I'll be playing tonight, actually. Kind of just continuing the grind, you know. I didn't really have Lyndon Coleman, he was like, Grant, you're going to just have to play summer ball. You know, you don't have that many stats from freshman year, so you're going to have to build up that resume more. So that's what I'm doing here, you know, hopefully just keep balling out. Got a couple of schools reaching out here and there, and just Lyndon Coleman's a guy who has a lot of connections. So hoping in my ability to do good and his ability to put me on the right spot.
Yeah, that's so unique too, because we look at the lack of commitment these days and the lack of loyalty when it comes to, you know, the NIL and the transfer portal and things like that. But Coach LC is very, very honest about, hey, this is a JUCO school. I'm really trying to get guys, and he does a lot when you guys are there, but he's also understanding that he's trying to help you get to that next level. How is that? How is that communication with him? Because, and the one thing I like about him, and I think it goes into when he told you, hey, you gotta pick it up or you're gonna sit the bench. He's a very honest guy and he's very blunt. And I love people like that because, and you're gonna learn this too, Grant, as you get older. You're gonna like a lot more people that may give it to you the truth, and it's like, yeah, maybe it was a little, you know, a little rough around the edges, rather than the guy that's like, Grant, you're the greatest baseball player I've ever seen, and then he walks around the corner and is like, Grant Jordan sucks. Like, you don't want anything to do with those people. I love that Coach shoots it straight. So how is that, you know, when you're obviously grateful for everything that he's done for you, but he's also looking to kind of push you on to that next level?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, I would say he saved my career because, again, he just got me in that mental spot where you can't care really, you know. And he's a guy that he's probably made some players kind of quit, but it's because they weren't mentally prepared. And if you can't make
they
it
didn't want
past,
to do it.
if you can't make it past there, you're not gonna. There's no point. You're not gonna make it at the next level. You know, even when our team, he said we're the worst team in Pasco history. We're the first team to win a national championship. You know, he kind of always keeps our head on our shoulders. You know, even when we're doing good, he's not going to let us know. But when you're doing bad, he'll let you know. But it's all in good spirits. You know, you can't really take it to heart,
Right?
or else then your performance obviously is going to go down. And I think what Pasco has, it's really great. It's very young coaching staff, so it's very fun. You can build that. You can build like a true connection. Your coach isn't like 60 years old and you can become friends, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a
just
great
build
point
that
too.
camaraderie.
It's funny that you say that because I think JD Urso said something similar to that about the UT team this year, and now you guys are both national champions. That's so funny how that works out. But yeah, you're right about Coach, right? So I think with him, being that you guys aren't there for that long, like you don't have 4 years to build that trust. He's got to be very honest with you guys. Very honest with you guys very early on. And if that makes you feel bad and you get upset, like you're not cut out for this. Baseball is a game of failure. And if you can't deal with somebody telling you the truth, even if it hurts your little feelings, like you're probably not cut out for this anyway. So I'm on board with that all the way. Grant Jordan, 2-time national champ, UT, also with our friends at Pasco-Hernando. He's a Spartan. He's a Bobcat. He's a St. Pete Tampanian. He's all over. It's Tampa Bay. He's a 2-time national champ. Grant, thank you so much for your time today, man. Continued success. Kick some ass tonight. Keep in touch, my friend, and congratulations again. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You got it, buddy. Good stuff, Grant Jordan. Man, what a great story. What a great story. Kid from St. Pete, goes to Jesuit, goes to UT, goes to Pasco-Hernando. Like, he's going to have a great story to tell one day about his career when it comes to baseball. Gotta love it. Got to love it. All right. That's going to wrap it up for me today on the program. I love you all very, very much. Rays back in action tonight, 7:05 against the Red Sox. Hopefully they can pull that out, win that series against the stinking Red Sox. 7:10 start up there at Fenway Park. Let me give you the what's going on here? Come on now. I want to give you the, I don't know why it's not coming up. All right, whatever. I want to give you the starters. I like doing that. Starters for tonight. Lucas Giolito on the mound for the Red Sox. 32-36 are the Red Sox. Lucas Giolito, the big right-hander, 1-1 with a 6.42 ERA. And then our guy Ryan Pepio for the 36-30 Rays, 3-5 with a 3.2 ERA, throwing the ball much better as of late. So good luck to our guy Pep. and of course, our Tampa Bay Rays. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Can't do this without all of you guys. A big thank you to Grant Jordan and Matt Matera for joining us on the program. We got some irons in the fire. Hopefully, we'll have some big-time guests over the next couple of days. Captain Mike Anderson is probably going to join us at the end of this week as well. All right, I love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow at noon. Of course, more stuff from Buccaneers mandatory minicamp day 2 mañana. We'll talk about that tomorrow starting at noon right here on the Recher